Welcome to the Passing Through podcast, a show dedicated to exploring
Do you hate mankind for what they done to you? He said, talk of love, not hate.
I have so little time and I'm only passing through.
Passing through, passing through.
Sometimes happy, sometimes blue.
Glad that I ran into.
I love the name of your podcast, Passing Through.
I'm delighted to meet you, Danny, and I'm delighted to pass through as well. It's a great title for your podcast.
I like already the topic, passing through, so thanks.
It's good to be passing through on the Passing Through podcast.
I'm just passing through here, my friend.
Thank you. Great passing through with you. And I love the title. It's a liminal title for a liminal time.
Happy to pass through with you. I love that name. Passing through. Yeah. I get it now.
Sometimes happy, sometimes blue. Glad that I ran into you. Tell the people that you saw me passing through. Passing through. Passing through. Passing through. Sometimes happy, sometimes blue. Glad that I ran into you. Tell the people that you saw me passing through.
So, as you may have already noticed, in this intro, I wanted to do something different to honor the ancestors of this podcast. I wanted to honor those who have passed through, to offer their wisdom, stories, and feelings and perspectives so that they might guide us. We're fortunate to have had some good ancestors across these 100 episodes. We've had artists and musicians and meditators and breath workers and philosophers and authors and podcasters and psychologists and photographers and peace activists and filmmakers and storytellers and humanitarian aid workers on the ground in Gaza, risking life and limb. So I wanted to thank each and every one of you for being an ancestor here. I might even have some clips coming later in this episode from my biological ancestors, living and dead. When I was thinking about the 100th episode, I realized that I had to do something special for this one. But before we get there, I wanted to extend some heartfelt gratitude not just to our speaking ancestors, but also to the silent ones. Not just the stones and stars, but the moon and winds and rain and earth beneath our feet, holding us in place with the devotion of a mother, providing food, air, water, shelter, and a mind-bendingly diverse assortment of kin, human, animal, plant, fungi, and other entities, to interact with, serve, and learn from. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge and honor the steady, patient, space-holding listeners who have spent countless hours passing through with me and each other. So without the 12 of you, my dearest apostles, my most caring listeners, this show would be pretty pointless. So, thank you. Come to think of it, actually, what is the point of this show? I don't know, but this podcast functions not just as a digital pulpit, a confessional booth, and self-incriminating audio diary, but also as a time capsule. It's a sonic snapshot of a specific time and place. Yes, sure, I'm passing through, but as the song goes, so are you. And where are we in this thing we call time? Where does it come from? Where does it go? Where does it come from, Cotton Eye Joe? On a more serious note, by all indications, it seems that we are in a time of fracture and unraveling. The late Joanna Macy called it the Great Turning and described it as the essential adventure of our time. Our institutions are collapsing. Our earth systems are poisoned. We're facing a crisis of meaning, crisis of community, belonging, energy crises, political crises, pretty much anything you could think of. So facing all of this in this moment in time, what can we do? Well, I'd say one thing we can do is leverage moment-to-moment acts of kindness and compassion. We can build community and be in service to something greater. We can come together and dance and sing and hold space for one another. And here I'd like to clarify something important. When I say build community in this context, I don't mean go have a few beers with people you like and agree with. I mean reach across the personal and political divide to those whom you find deplorable, loathsome, or repellent. Seek those whom you believe you have nothing in common with. Seek those suffering from spiritual maladies of the pestilent and possibly permanent kind. If you're in the US, you had Thanksgiving this past Thursday. Remember Uncle Steve, gnawing on a turkey leg, red-faced and dead-eyed, drunk, loudly yammering about the Jews in one breath, and then spouting Islamophobic drivel in the next? Yeah, I'm talking about him. Steve's on Team Human too. And this is important because our liberation is collective and shared. Because nobody's free until everybody's free. But you hear the same ideas in Buddhist concepts of the Bodhisattva, who makes it his or her mission to help liberate all beings, not just the beings that I like, not just the beings that are human, all beings. And transitioning to these sorts of values, shifting our perceptions, understanding not only that we're all connected, but that everything in this cosmos is connected to everything else. Which means a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. In the face of all of the injustice we see lately, I wonder whether true villainy and evil actually exist, or whether the marriage of ignorance with power, and sometimes even powerlessness, produces what we call evil and harm. To quote the great James Baldwin, "It is certain, in any case, that ignorance, allied with power, is the most ferocious enemy justice can have." And there's truth in this, because only when we're ignorant of how connected we are can we perpetrate intentional harm and malice. And this is how accidents happen, right? Typically through carelessness and ignorance. And if we look to spiritual teachers like Jesus or the Buddha, Jesus was literally tortured, beaten, crucified. And if we don't call that evil and dehumanizing and obscene, then I'm not sure what is. But what did Jesus say when that was happening? Jesus said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And another spiritual teacher, the Buddha, he said, "As I am, so are others. As others are, so am I." Having thus identified self and others, harm no one, nor have them harmed. So I think what we've failed to realize on a deep, visceral level is that for all practical intents and purposes, we are each other. Looking back to James Baldwin again,
love has never been a popular movement, and no one's ever wanted really to be free. The world is held together, really it is held together, by the love and the passion of very few people. Otherwise, of course, you can despair. Walk down the street of any city, any afternoon, and look around you. What you got to remember is what you're looking at is also you. Everyone you're looking at is also you. You could be that person. You could be that monster. You could be that cop.
And a teacher of mine, Jeremy Lent, in conversation with Douglas Rushkoff, recently said, "Meaning is a function of our connectedness." So is it any wonder then that when confronted with such unprecedented disconnection, that we find ourselves manacled and bound, imprisoned by our individual illusions? Okay, so you might be thinking, yeah, we are disconnected, and maybe we are facing a collective crisis of meaning. So what can we do about it? If we are like a dog tied to a chain in an open yard, I think it's natural to grow resentful of the chain and to wonder how we might loosen its grip. And given the season, I'd like to invite us to think of gratitude as a vital salve that can reconnect us. It can help us honor relationality and ultimately unburden us with our individual struggles. And again, given the season, let's talk a moment about the ancestors of place particular to where I was born. In Haudenosaunee tradition, in the northeast of what's today called the United States, the origin story of Sky Woman teaches, among other things, the enormous importance of gratitude. In this story, a pregnant woman falls a long way from her home in the sky towards the earth. And as she's plummeting down towards certain doom, some creatures see her and deliberate about what to do. Quickly, a great flock of birds come to her aid and form a giant mass of flapping wings to slow her fall. Down below, a giant turtle floats in a vast ocean, populated by sea creatures and animals like otters and beavers and muskrats. And they also deliberate on what to do and how to prevent a fatal impact. One of them remembers that there's soft stuff below the sea, which could be placed on the back of the turtle shell to soften the landing. So the beaver swims down and is gone for a long time, but returns empty-handed and gasping. Next, the otter disappears below the surface for an even longer time, but it too returns empty-handed. Then, the lowly muskrat dives into the murky depths in search of the substance and is gone a long, long time. The other animals begin to worry. Sky Woman is getting closer and time is running out. As they deliberate about what to do, the water in front of them begins to bubble. Muskrat floats to the surface, dead, covered in mud, with fistfuls of it clenched in each of its little paws. The other animals reverently place him and the mud on the turtle's back just in time for Sky Woman to land unharmed. And this is the story of her arrival. Welcomed as a pregnant immigrant and alien to this world. Her path was forged through cooperation, solidarity, and sacrifice of others, through relationship. And upon her arrival, she immediately gives thanks to the birds and the turtle and the creatures who made her arrival possible. She dances and sings songs and spreads the mud with her feet as she offers and plants seeds she had with her, which grow into the land and plants of Turtle Island. So her first actions are to give her gifts. She gives thanks, song, dance, the seeds in her pocket, in service of the greater community. And later in that story, it is said that the purpose of human beings is to sing thanks to all things. I want to repeat that because it bears repeating, I think. The purpose of human beings is to sing thanks to all things. So for this indigenous culture, Thanksgiving is not a holiday. It's a way of life. I recall a passage from Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass. You've heard me mention this book many times on this podcast. It's one of my favorite books, and I recommend it to everyone. And that's where I first heard the Sky Woman story. And in this passage in her book, she's describing learning her nearly extinct native language. And she's speaking with her teacher after someone asked, "How do you say please pass the salt?" And the teacher replies by saying that while there are several words for thank you, there is no word for please. Food was meant to be shared, and no added politeness needed. It was simply a cultural give-in that one was asking respectfully. The missionaries took this absence as further evidence of crude manners. So I want to pause here just to say a couple of things about Thanksgiving in general. I was at a community building event in Slovakia recently. That's why you didn't get a podcast last week, because it was 3 back-to-back workshops, which culminated in an annual meeting. So I was a bit preoccupied. But there was one day at the annual meeting where there happened to be another American in the group, which is unusual. Typically, I'm the only one, aside from our mentor. And this woman was sitting next to me and she asked me, "Are you going to be celebrating Thanksgiving?" I want to just note that Thanksgiving, as most Americans know it, isn't just a myth. It's propaganda. Because when the pilgrims came, when the settlers came from Europe, when the colonial powers landed on the shores of what was known as Turtle Island, they decimated these populations. They stole their land. They dispossessed them. They exterminated them. They waged war on them. They perpetrated horrors and atrocity on these people as they genocided them. Maybe somewhere there were some people who were peaceful, who did sit down at a table and share food. Maybe. But by and large, that wasn't what was happening. So growing up in school in America, I remember the textbooks that we'd get. I remember the pictures it would show of Thanksgiving, of everybody sitting happily around the table, sharing food. And this is just colonial indoctrination, right? This is erasure. This is a way to sidestep an uncomfortable truth. But the spirit of Thanksgiving, of giving thanks, of gratitude, of reciprocity, this is what I wanted to focus on this episode. Not just because it's Thanksgiving, but also it's the 100th episode. It's a special event. I'm thankful to everything that has happened, everything I've learned on this journey, the people I've spoken to, that people listen to this. This is something I do as a passion project. I don't get compensated for it. I just do it in service. I give it as a gift to share insights, to give people something to listen to that might be helpful. So what I want today, what I hope that we can do together is imagine a world where we said thank you more. How many ways can you think of to say thank you? And what gifts do you have to give? On this topic, one of my practices is doing this at meals. And before I began this small ritual, I used to just see an egg and cheese breakfast sandwich as food. Tasty and warm and protein rich, but nothing more, really. And now, when I sit down, I verbally express gratitude. I thank the chickens and the grain, the skies and the rain, the water and soil microorganisms and fungi, and light and shadow and morning dew and birds and the plants and insects that feed them. I thank the water that quenched the thirst of the chickens and the seeds and grains and bugs that nourished them. I thank the grasses that provided the nutrients to the cows to make milk, which billions of bacteria then turned into cheese. I thank the fire that gave its heat to the doughy paste of wheat, which became bread. And I thank the sun for not just growing the plants, but for giving us air to breathe. After all, it's only through the sun's relationship with the seas that we have air to breathe. And as we breathe out, the plants and trees can breathe us in. But wait a minute, you might be thinking. What the fuck does the sun have to do with us breathing? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this gives me an opportunity to talk about a magical and wondrous thing. The sun, that giant shining star at the heart of our solar system, burning like a colossal celestial torch 92 million miles away, sending its light out at ludicrous speeds faster than we can even see. That light takes 8 minutes hurtling through the darkness of space to reach our planet. And then it penetrates the atmosphere, the thick blanket of clouds in the skies, and gently warms the ocean as stalks of light swim down into the waters below. When the light arrives there, it feeds algae, photoplankton, microorganisms like cyanobacteria that all transform the light into sugar and oxygen. And the oxygenated water sustains marine life. And because it's a gas inside a liquid, the oxygen bubbles up and out of the ocean into the skies as a gift for all terrestrial life, so that we can breathe in all day, every day, for as long as we are alive. So the sun, in relationship with space and time and water and sky and plants that us land dwellers never see, thanks to all of that, we are able to breathe. So in a sense, that makes us all a really strange breed of fire-breathing dragon, doesn't it? If that isn't some science fiction miracle to be grateful for, then I'm not sure what is. And so what I want to say with all of this is that gratitude is the doorway through which we realize our relationships and our responsibilities as we enter the path of reciprocity through giving thanks. And this, perhaps, is why the Sky Woman story reveals humans are here to express gratitude and sing praises to and for all of the gifts given to us on this earth. But don't just trust me. Listen to a future ancestor of this podcast, Anna Kavasna. She's the strategic lead for community resilience at the Global Eco-Village Network International and co-founder of Kin-Centric Leadership and the Living Systems Alliance.
And I think some of the etiquette, if you look at indigenous and like land-based society, are things like reciprocity, right? We get so many gifts. I exist only because all of these other beings exist and give their gifts to me in that flow that I spoke about. So what am I giving back? How am I returning the gifts? How am I passing things on? And it doesn't have to be like tit for tat, you gave me this, I give you that. It's more like, how am I in the web of the flows? Am I giving back, You have things like reverence. Many traditional land-based cultures, they have a sense of reverence for the living world. And it helps us. It helps us to show up as good people within that world, to treat it with reverence, to say like, it's sacred and I'm sacred. And this web that I am part of is sacred because this is life. Like, this is what gives life. This is what gives birth to all of this unbelievable beauty and abundance that surrounds us, that nurtures all of us, that we are creating together. Right? So there's that. And with that comes things like gratitude, also. So how do I give thanks? How do I give back? And I think even if you look at something like, to move towards your question around like bigger systems change and like what would that world be? Even if you take just one of those things like reciprocity, right? And you can look at it from, how am I giving back in terms of my love and my attention? Maybe I tend my garden more lovingly, like I speak to my plants, like it can be very like in my small world. Maybe I do a ritual of thanks, It was just Samhain. I just celebrated Samhain last weekend together with some dear friends. And we, of course, thanked our ancestors. I had dinner with my ancestors in their honor, offered them food and wine and sat with them just to express my thanks and to invite their teachings. So there are actions like that. But we also live in a system, an economic system, a materials flow system that is fundamentally not reciprocal. So, it's a very tangible, in this world example, but I flushed the toilet and what should be nutrients for the soil, it's put into fresh water, which is bad etiquette, taken away to some faraway place where it's treated with chemicals and this and that and becomes something else. And instead of me being in that short cycle of reciprocity with the land that feeds me, it's broken, right? And that's a small example, but you can look at it with global economy, how large our material flows are, how much of the horrible extraction and violence that our economy rests on is possible because the distances in time and geography are really, really big. So it lets us be blind to what's going on, and it gives us a free pass for not living in reciprocity. So I think a very tangible way is how do I make sure that the systems that I live through, can be very, very big change, do not enable that. What would it look like if, at least in the material flows that keep me and my loved ones alive, we're not contributing to that, but actually were systems of reciprocity?
And now that we've spoken a bit about gratitude, I want to talk about the place that I'm in right now, because I'm grateful to be where I am. And usually I start the episode with where I'm passing through and what's going on, but I've somehow managed to omit that at the beginning. I'm currently on a farm in Poland. Outside of the wooden structure that I am inside of, there is a blue tit chirping. You might hear it in the background. And just to clarify, a blue tit isn't a bruised mammary gland. It isn't a dismembered breast perched on the branch of a tree outside my window making squeaking sounds. That would be amazing. That would be incredible and a strange sci-fi miracle to be grateful for. But if it were outside my window, I would be grateful for it. But I am inside of a wooden structure, a sort of tiny house, a one-room tiny house with windows on all sides, looking out over the mountains, looking out at snowy fields and hills, bare trees, and a sort of blooming fog. And the only reason I'm here is because of the generosity of a recently married couple of friends. They invited us to spend winter with them, to help them with little odds and ends like feeding chickens and letting them in and out in the mornings, at night, which I did this morning at 7 a.m. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm grateful to be in service and show some reciprocity by taking care of the chickens, by helping them, by cooking, by cleaning, by spending time together, holding space for one another, and building community through the winter. I've been fortunate these past couple of years, even though I haven't been working, in the traditional sense at least. I've had ample opportunity to get to know people, to get to know land and place, to reconnect with nature and animals, and kind of put myself at the mercy of the elements, of the seasons. And something about that has felt really liberating. And it's paradoxical, right? Because it only is possible because of constraint. Asha and I don't have a home. Again, at least in the traditional sense, we live in a Volkswagen Transporter. We don't have jobs. We don't have a toilet. We don't have a shower. So there are many constraints on our existence, but somehow my existence feels fuller, deeper, more meaningful, richer, and busier than maybe ever before. And I'm still trying to explore why exactly that is or what the mechanism at play is. But I would guess, if I had to, that it was connected to gratitude and reciprocity. And not having an agenda, maybe, not having a plan, not trying to control things or fix things or forecast things, just being, just kind of surfing the wave and seeing where it takes me. So I'm really thankful for that experience. And I've opened myself up for what there is that life might want to teach me. And I think that dialogue, that openness or receptiveness or interest, curiosity, whatever word resonates with you, whatever energetic signature that has to attract me to listening more to the quiet sounds, to the subtle symbols, to those frequencies and vibrations that I might not hear if I didn't have those constraints and this quality of slowing down and stillness and emptiness that I have more of now. So I want to express gratitude for that too. And I also wanted to pivot a little bit in this episode and shift to more celebratory things because we started a bit serious. We spoke about coloniality and erasure and genocide, spoke about the poly crisis and times of fracture and disconnection and separation. But I also wanted to talk about joy and revelry and ecstatic experience because I think these are also doorways to connection. And these are probably things that we should pursue more than we do. So I don't have a particular story. And I'm just trying to channel some celebratory energy and joy and happiness as we settle into winter here. And I think just that practice of remembering, of reminding ourselves that there is joy despite the mountains of mayhem and malice and cruelty and injustice and suffering and harm and pain and sorrow. We're here to experience it all. Everything. All of the colors of the rainbow, right? The full spectrum experience of life and being an embodied being. So leaning into joy and ecstasy and revelry and dance and song and celebration and play and silliness even, or irreverence, I think is an important aspect of being human because it reminds us to not take things so seriously. It deforms the container a bit. It contorts perspective. So this is just a reminder for everybody, including myself, to remember that and practice remembering that. Maybe take 5 minutes every day to make a stupid sound, dance a stupid dance, sing a stupid song, paint a stupid picture, write a stupid story. And earlier I alluded to biological ancestors, and I'm trying to think of a way to weave those in because I'm in the part of the show that is emergent and I don't know where I'm going exactly. But I think I get some of that irreverence and often kind of crudeness or inappropriateness from my father. He was amazing. Actually, this reminds me of something that happened just the other day. I had a friend from Canada visiting, and this was on Thanksgiving. And I called my parents to check in, and my mom and my dad were driving to my brother's place where they'd spend Thanksgiving. So my mom was telling me that she had a disaster in the kitchen, that she was responsible for preparing the turkey for the Thanksgiving, which is, as you know, the staple of Thanksgiving. And somehow, I don't know how she did this or why or what weird confluence of events contributed to this, but somehow when she checked on the turkey, she noticed that the turkey seemed to be drying out, that the water in the bottom of the glass dish that the turkey was roasting in seemed to have evaporated a little too much. So she went to the sink and she knew enough to collect some hot water in a cup instead of some cold water. So she got some hot water, she opened the oven, and she put it in the bottom of the dish. And after she closed the oven, within seconds, she heard a loud explosion. And she went to the oven and she opened it only to find that the glass had just exploded. It burst into a million pieces. And there were shards of glass everywhere, inside the turkey, all over the oven. And so this was a calamitous moment where Thanksgiving was ruined, at least the turkey portion of it. And so as she's telling me the story, my dad's in the car and I'm going, oh, wow. So what happened? Like there were small pieces of glass in it. It was inside the turkey. You had to throw out the whole turkey. And she's saying, yeah, there was glass in it. There was big pieces and small pieces. It was inside the turkey. It was impossible to get them out. And as she's saying this, my dad just cuts in and interrupts her. And he says, yeah, so we gave it to a homeless guy. And I'm just imagining, foisting some mangled danger turkey. It's like a trick or treat turkey. This was a myth that they used to have in New York about candy being laced with razor blades or pieces of glass that an unsuspecting trick-or-treater would bite into and have to go to the hospital. So I'm imagining my dad doing this kind of trick-or-treat turkey to this homeless guy where he's just biting into a delicious, fresh, warm piece of turkey only to find a shard of glass enclosed within the tasty flesh. Of course, my dad didn't do this, and my mom immediately told him to shut up. And I just couldn't stop laughing at it, just the nonchalance, the nonchalant way that he dropped that little visual into the conversation. And so I think I get those qualities from him. So I wanted to honor that quality in him because it's something that I admire and I enjoy. I enjoy those little moments of levity and absurdism. And as you know, listening to this podcast, I'm often interspersing episodes with weird songs or bits or surprising stupidity because I think that life does that too, When the chicken exploded, this is life's way of showing us surprise. And this makes us resilient. This makes us adaptable. So I think it serves an important function and has its place. And we should also embrace that a bit more. And to honor my father, I wanted to include a little clip of him as well from an unaired episode that I had recorded some time ago. So you could get a taste of of his energy. And I don't think he necessarily says anything audacious or depraved in this clip, but there are probably some bits that I'll have to edit out in order to sanitize this enough to make it palatable for normal audiences. And so, without further ado, here's my dad.
There was so many pigeons around that back in the day, the sport was, like people go hunting. You went up your roof and you let go of your birds, and you would try to catch the next guy's birds. So say you had 50 birds, he had 50, next guy had 20. Within a mile area, there was probably maybe 20 pigeon coops or more. And some guys would lose birds, they would fly away and go into your flock. And when they would land, you would catch them. So that's what the sport was about, catching stray pigeons from other guys. So sometimes you would catch like 5 in a day, 10 in a day, and you go down to the store and you sell them, and you get pigeon feed for them. Or if you knew the guy whose bird it was and you liked them, you gave it back to him. But if some guys would catch your birds and want to give them back, then you had a pigeon war. So when you caught his birds, you want to give them back. And some guys were so crazy, they were like, "Hey, Joey, I caught your fucking bird. Here, you want it back?" And they would like wring the neck of the bird and kill it and throw it up on the guy's roof and say, "Here, you motherfucker." You know what I mean? Because they, wouldn't get, I know you caught my bird and you didn't give it back. So there would be certain guys would have pigeon feuds with certain guys. They had catch keep. That was like, I catch your bird, I keep it. There was catch kill, and that's what I just described. And then there was guys that were like, "Yeah, don't worry, I caught your bird, kid. Yeah, come up and get it. Yeah, take it." That was the three aspects of catching other people's pigeons.
So that's one of my direct ancestors. I also wanted to acknowledge and honor the female, my mom. This is also an unaired conversation that I recorded last time I was in New York. So I'm not sure what the topic is going to be here. I haven't combed through it yet to find one that fits. So you're going to be as surprised as me about what you're about to hear. So give this a listen.
No, that's you don't stay the same as when you were a child and you are now.
Yeah.
Just like you're not what you were when you were 18 years old and left and moved to California.
Exactly. So we are always changing. There is no static self.
Right. Okay. That's the word, changing. But again, you're saying that we are not an individual. We are, but we may change in our minds with our thoughts. Like you are not the same person that you were 10 years ago.
I'm not the same person that I was when I woke up this morning.
Why? What happened from this morning to right now?
Time passed. We are in a different, all there is the present moment. That moment is gone. That me that was there when I woke up is gone. It's not here anymore. That you that was there is not here anymore. That you at 13 is not here anymore. It's gone.
Oh, yeah. The 13, the 14, the 20, the 30, the 40, the 50 now. But
when we started this conversation, that you is gone as well. Every moment, you're gone, and a new you is here.
no, I don't believe in that. I don't believe that. I believe that yes, time does not wait for nobody, and it does move on, correct, but we are still you're still the Danny that I woke up with this morning.
No.
Yes.
How?
Because your appearance is the same. You have the same clothes on that you had this morning, the same mindset. And I'm the same way as when I left to work and I came home. So, like,
Are you the same and am I the same? The
yeah.
exact same?
Oh, maybe we're a little tired. I came home, I was tired, I took a little nap, but I am not a different person. I'm the same me, and you're the same you.
No.
Yes. Why are you saying no?
No, because when you left, you had new experiences that you didn't have before you left.
I went to work.
Yeah.
I was stuck at a desk all morning, busting my ass,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, that's
So things happen.
what most people do. They go to work, they come home, but it's a ritual every day. It's the same process, the same thoughts, the same ways. But we are my point is we're the same person. I'm trying to.
You just took your tooth out of your mouth and put it on the table. Okay. I wasn't expecting that, but
I have a fake tooth. It's called the flipper, and it was bothering me, so I took it out and put it on my wood table that was built from a community, serving the purpose of me putting my tooth there.
So that was my mom. I am the product of both of them and many, 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 many other things. You know, like some of the things I mentioned earlier, the rain and sun and clouds and seas and earth and soil and countless plants and animals and fungi and microorganisms and energies that I can't even see or know. Events, histories, culture, inventions, ideas of all of those that came before me. And speaking of those who came before me, and those who even came before my parents, I wanted to conclude here, a recording from my grandfather. And I've spoken a bit about my grandfather on this podcast before. He was like a father to me when I was young because my father wasn't really ready for that role of fatherhood. He was still young and partying and riding motorcycles, and he didn't want to be chained down, right? If you think of that dog in the yard from earlier, he definitely would have been resentful of the chain and found a way to get off, or if he couldn't, he'd become even more ferocious. So my grandfather stepped in, as ancestors do, to be in service, to be a caretaker, to be a steward, and to instill good values. And unfortunately, my grandfather's life ended tragically when he was already old. I don't know how old he was. Had to be at least in his 70s or 80s. He had committed suicide, which I've mentioned in a few of these episodes along the way. And I don't mean this to be some mournful, dark, grieving moment in this episode, because it isn't. I'm celebrating his life and celebrating his contributions. And in celebrating his life, I think it's important to also note that there was pain and there was sorrow and there was grief and hardship and struggle. He had been in World War II, and he was compelled by the state to commit crimes and murder innocent people, as they were compelled by their state to engage in warfare and commit murder and kill people they didn't know and had never seen. And this is war. right? This is empire. This is coloniality. These are the structures in which we live. These are the things which we accept as normal. These are the things which we should reject for truly embodying principles like gratitude and reciprocity and care and being in service and respecting the dignity of all beings. It wouldn't be possible for us to do that, at least not on the scale that we do it. And this is a burden that he had to live with for the rest of his life. And it was corrosive and toxic and ultimately contributed to ending his life. And I didn't know this, but he was a bit of a thinker. He was a bit of a philosopher, and he had a habit of recording tapes. He was a kind of podcaster before there were podcasts. And so I unearthed a recording of him, which I'm not going to include in its entirety, but I wanted to just give you a taste of a person in a moment in time, an ancestor of mine, who's no longer with us, but is still with us, still in me, and still going to be in you when his voice moves through your ears. So I'm probably going to conclude this episode, as I mentioned earlier, with this recording. There's not going to be anything after. I'm just going to kind of leave it there and go have some breakfast. So one more time, be good to one another. And I will talk to you next week. I'll have an interview for you with Annika Vasna, which was alluded to in the middle of this episode. Stay tuned. Sending love, sending care. That's my stomach growling. So that's its way of saying goodbye, I guess. It's a long goodbye. I love that I could just end a podcast with the growling of my stomach. It's a pretty special thing to be able to do. So thank you for giving me that space.
I don't know what it is about a guy when he starts to get around 50. It seems to be a very dangerous age. I guess you can't understand everything. There's a lot of things that are confusing, you know, a lot of things you just, you don't understand. But in the past couple of years since I used this recorder, my feelings haven't changed about religion and life and love. I'm convinced today, as I was 15 years ago, that love is the answer to everything. Love is the answer to all our problems. If we got it, we have everything, and if we don't have it, we don't have nothing.